lightning round.
No, it's Greg Zerline.
No, oh,
I don't even know these people.
You have my solemn vow. We are done at wide receiver
Pemba said fold.
till the next round.
This is sitting on top of my Scott Fishbowl trophy.
I have a cup for Cooper Cup, I guess.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Lightning Round, powered by Fantasy Alarm. I am Kevin Tompkins, of course, with Britt Flinn, Andrew Cooper, and our guest, Mr. Jeff Bell of Football Guys. Jeff, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. Thank you guys for having me on. I have so much respect for all of you. Andrew, congratulations on the FSWA nomination, making it to the finals there. Britt, we played in SFB together last year, and it went down to the wire in our division. And Kevin, you've been so kind and welcoming and walking me through several different things and getting started in the industry. And so thank you so much for having me here. And again, just the deepest respect and just kindness for all of you guys. And thank you very much.
Bro, Jeff Bell comes on and drops the reverse intro, introduces everyone of dude. What a legend, Jeff, you're coming on again next week. We'll just have Jeff on every week just to drop nice things before the show starts, right? Can we set that up? You're the man.
I'm gonna clip that. That's just gonna be part of the intro.
Just every time. Hey, I'm Jeff Bell. These guys are awesome. Jeff, you're the
And
man,
then
dude.
let's go.
And you're our guest because you're awesome, dude. So that's why we have you here.
I appreciate that greatly.
Sure.
Absolutely. The Mutual Admiration Society lives on here through Lightning Round. And of course, powered by our good friends at Fantasy Alarm. If you're watching, want to say hello, we will be on weekly on Wednesdays. I know we had our draft bonanza last Thursday, so you can catch us every Wednesday on all the Fantasy Alarm channels. Of course, our Lightning Round channel, youtube.com/Lightning Round. But we are here today. We finally got some landing spots for these rookies, and we are going to be talking about, we've been talking about them, it seems like, for the last month or so, but now we have some teams, we have some players, a happy marriage, maybe we'll see, but let's talk about some guys. So let's start with the wide receivers here. And kind of a theme here. If you happen to see the banner for the show this week and wondering why there was an old-timey ship, first of all, there was a captain of the British Navy, I believe, named James Cook. So that kind of fit in. But Coop is the captain of the ghost ship in Atlanta. I'm sorry. Arthur Smith is the captain. Is Drake London the quartermaster of that ghost ship heading nowhere?
The term ghost ship, for anyone unfamiliar, that's when we talk about a team that we know is doing a rebuild, a bridge year, where they're tanking, they're, letting guys leave for comp picks. A good example is the Lions last year. They traded their quarterback. They let Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones leave. They didn't bring in a single player that was on any sort of 2-year guarantee deal that would upset the comp pick formula, right? They let 4 guys leave. They get the max 4 comp picks back. That's the ghost ship move, right? The Dolphins did it in 2019. That's kind of what the Falcons are doing here. And the thing is, that brings opportunity. We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown. Maybe he's not a straight ghost ship captain, but we saw Preston Williams do it. We saw Terrell Pryor have 1,000 yards on the Browns. We saw Kenny Britt have 1,000 yards on the Rams before they brought in 1 million wide receivers. The ghost ship is actually a great place to get targets. So for me, I do love Drake London. He's one of the guys that I like best in redraft of this crew. Like, if everyone's just throwing darts at anyone, why not take the guy who's virtually guaranteed to be a top 2 target on the team? Because Calvin Ridley's not playing and Russell Gage is gone. So sign me up in redraft for sure. In Dynasty, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Jeff, what's your take? I know that you're the Devi guy, so.
I love Drake London. He's been my wide receiver 2. I just solely because I've had Garrett Wilson as wide receiver 1 for a whole year. And it's just one of those that we didn't get testing out of Drake London. And that might've been a catalyst to push him ahead. But, one went 8th, one went 10th in the draft. And so they're both right there. And throughout the entire process, I've had him very high. I think Andrew makes fantastic points there. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. And I remember Josh Allen's first year when Robert Foster became a thing, because there just wasn't anything else. And, they were just feeding Robert Foster out of the blue. And he went away, and Drake London is very much more talented than him, but I think it's going to be an opportunity. I'm very curious on who's going to be the quarterback, because I think there's a slight chance that Desmond Ritter wins this job, maybe even out of camp, because I think it might be the situation where they've built their team to accommodate Marcus Mariota, and Desmond Ritter is a very similar player. They could be head to head. And if it's one of those things that if you feel comfortable with a young player, you might go with the young player. And so if we have a situation where we really get these young talent together and they're able to grow together and rely on each other, and that's a fantastic place to get. And I agree completely on redraft. And I think Drake London is going to be my number one wide receiver on redraft, because I have some questions and concerns on some of the other guys.
Yeah, I think as far as London, I mean, redraft, I think he's almost clear the number one guy as far as rookie wide receivers. I think there's just 110, 120 target upside with him, like right out of the gate. Because, I mean, who is Frank Darby coming in to earn targets? Is Olamide Zaccheaus coming in to earn targets? Highly doubt it. So you're talking about, Ritter and London and Pitts all growing together. I think that would be the best kind of case if Ritter can at least be competent enough to, show, hey, maybe we could just roll with this guy. We didn't expect to get Ritter as late as we did in the draft. So, definitely like Drake London as far as redraft. He doesn't have the elite upside that you'll probably want in, in dynasty formats, but I still think that London, carries enough upside where you could probably get a decent amount of touchdowns out of him, and hopefully that Atlanta offense keeps growing.
Yeah, and if you look at, that good point on Ritter probably taking over Mariota sooner rather than later. If you look at Mariota and what he's done professionally, his best quarterback rating professionally is under 60, and that's his best. It's not great. So I think, especially if you're in a developmental situation, and you just want Ritter to get some reps, and he does seem to be, from all accounts and his interviews, the most pro-ready guy, then why not throw him in? Let those guys who are going to be there in that rebuild get some rapport together and, get some real in-game experience rather than just kind of tossing them away and giving them some real bad situations with Mariota. So.
For sure. Let's talk. Let's go into Treylon Burks, because we know AJ Brown got traded to Philadelphia. They went out and drafted Treylon Burks. So right now, besides Robert Woods, it's we'll see how his ACL is progressing. But yeah, between him and Burks, I mean, it's pretty much a two-man show there too. They did get Austin Hooper as well, so that is a little bit interesting as far as how those targets are going to match up there in Tennessee. But
I'd like to cede the full amount of my time to our local Treylon Burks expert, Britt Flinn. So don't come to me on this one. I want extra time for Britt on this one.
I actually have so much to say. So
the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, if you look at the comp and just the comp of what AJ Brown got when he was with Tennessee, he got around a 24%, a little more than that average target share. I know that Tennessee is a run-heavy team, and that's been a big criticism about that. That averaged out to about 7.5 targets for A.J. Brown per game. It doesn't seem like a lot, right? That's 5.5 completions. But if you look at what Treylon Burks did and his completion percentage at Arkansas and his YAC, he got 73.6% completion rate, and he had a 16-yard YAC average. Even considering a 5.5 reception rate per game, that's 88.5 yards a game. So please don't come at me with this, it's not a run-heavy team, like da-da-da-da. A.J. Brown produced in that. Treylon Burks can produce in that. I have full faith. And yesterday they came out and said, we're going to work him in all aspects, including rushing, which is super intriguing when you consider Derrick Henry is still there. So all y'all worried about Treylon Burks, just pop a Xanax. It's going to be all good.
That's why I give her. Hey, let me just add the what is it? A warning that she's a Arkansas fan, so you got to take all that with a grain of salt. But
it's stats. It's on paper.
It's stats.
Math.
Yeah, I love that she knew we called her out for that, so she brought just numbers. You can't really argue with numbers. So, I don't know, Jeff. What do you think about Treylon?
I saw this on the show sheet before, and I knew Britt's affinity for Arkansas, and we've talked a little bit on Twitter about even going back through the fall. And I was really high on the Arkansas football team, and then they kind of fell apart. But that is what that is. I'm concerned about this landing spot, to be honest with you, because I think Treylon Burks, some of what I see with like Chris Olave being there with Michael Thomas, being able to that mentor, like apprentice type role, or Garrett Wilson kind of having Elijah Moore going through the same things, working together. Like Treylon Burks is kind of out there, and they really need him in production in the passing game. One, I think that Nick Westbrook-Akine, I'm not writing him off. He played really well at the end of last year, and he's got rapport with Ryan Tannehill. And so I think when you're talking about a lower passing volume, he's a guy that don't forget about him. If Robert Woods is able to come back, Kyle Phillips is a good player too, and he's in a more natural slot. And so a lot of what you want to see with Treylon Burks is working out of the slot as a big slot receiver. So if Kyle Phillips is able to work sometime too, that kind of, I don't know, that raises questions on what you're going to do with Burks. I don't know that it's a good thing the way that Arkansas used Burks, because I think that in the college game, you really want that wide receiver that can win consistently outside, that's going to demand coverage that way. And a lot of how he was used was either vertically down the field or that wide back Debo roll type of manufactured touches there. And so I don't know if he can't win consistently on the outside and you're kind of manufacturing those touches, how much of that is really in an offense that's going to still be relying heavily on Derrick Henry. I do think that they are certainly motivated to make it look like a good move, because they traded AJ Brown away. They traded a potential future star of the franchise away. And so they're going to want to look like they did the right thing there. But I do have concerns that Burks' game, how much growth is going to be there. The other thing that needs to be mentioned, especially in the last 24-hour news cycle, is what's going on with Ryan Tannehill, because it kind of seems like I think there was a story that he was in therapy, or, there were some other things going on off the field. We know the contract trigger that's coming up. If they want to get Malik Willis a look, there's a lot of questions with this team that I think that this has kind of been a model of stability throughout the last couple of years. And now we're kind of have some serious fucks going on.
There you go, Brett. Nick Westbrook better than Treylon Burks.
That's not what he said. I know you're trying. That's not what he said.
It's one of those things. You chip away a little bit here, you chip away a little bit there, and they didn't even give AJ Brown more than 8 targets a game, and so it's one of those that as good. And that was our frustration over the last 3 years of throw the ball to AJ Brown. How many times did we all say throw the ball to AJ Brown, and then all of a sudden they're just going to throw it to Treylon Burks now? I have questions about that.
It's hard for them to throw the ball to AJ Brown when the coach literally wears a hat that says "hand the ball to Derrick Henry." Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little harder now that AJ Brown is in Philadelphia to throw the ball to AJ Brown. But yeah, we make all this talk about how Treylon Burks is the next Deebo Samuel, but what people don't fail to realize is you have to have an offensive coordinator who wants to use a particular receiver like that. So that, might be square peg round hole kind of thing with Treylon Burks. Does Todd Downing even want to use him like that? I think Mick Vrabel kind of gave him a pass a little bit last year because of all the injuries they had at wide receiver. And they were, that was pretty much a skeleton crew in itself. The fact that Nick Westbrook-Akine and I can't even remember the random white guy they had out there. You guys know I cannot remember his name for the life of me.
I'm blanking too, man.
But anyway, that pretty much tells you right there. Michael Pruitt, Jeff Swaim were involved in the offense. That should tell you everything. So
don't forget Austin Hooper, man. Hooper. The thing about Austin Hooper, I just want to say really quick, is that he's not a bad tight end. He got overpaid. The Falcons threw in 2019 through, no joke, 60 more passes than the next highest team. 60 more passes than the Falcons, than the Panthers. That's why Austin Hooper got paid. The fact that he got overpaid doesn't mean he's not a middle of the pack tight end, which he is. So he could easily collect himself 80, 90, even 100 targets in a situation like that. So something to think about.
I do want to say too quick, we talk about Christian Watson and Aaron Rodgers' history with rookies and potentially freezing him out. With all the things with Ryan Tannehill, I almost wonder if there's going to be, especially for redraft, if he's going to be worried about getting that contract extension and he's going to go to Robert Woods and Austin Hooper, the veterans that he knows where they're going to be and he can trust. And I wonder if there's going to be some of that in the game.
He
Well, let's-
texted him. It's on Twitter. He's fine. He and Burks are going to work out. It's fine.
So is he going to mentor him?
Well, he's not coming for his job, so I mean, I don't think. And oh gosh, oops, my bad. And he'll make his play look better when he is trying to go in for that contract extension too. So
Britt
we'll
has
see.
all the answers. Keep throwing them at her. She's batting them right back, dude. This is like racquetball.
No, my college advisor did teach me how to play racquetball, so I've got all the skills.
And if we're mean enough to her, she actually knows Frank Ragnow, so she could definitely get us beat up if necessary, if it comes to it. I know we pick on you a lot, Britt, but I keep that in the back of my mind.
Yep, just remember.
Frank Ragnow. We'll talk about that rag later.
We're gonna get ragdolled by Frank.
Exactly. Yeah, I want no part of that. We mentioned Christian Watson. We might as well just go into him now. Obviously, Green Bay traded up to draft Christian Watson. The first time that they have traded up for a skill position player since the infamous Jordan Love of 2020. We shall not speak about that any longer. But Christian Watson ends up in an open, I would say, between Sammy Watkins, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Mari Rogers, Robert Tonyan. I'd say it's pretty wide open as far as you can name 6, 7 guys, throw Aaron Jones in there as far as guys that can lead the Packers in targets. And, you want guys that are going to be, targets of Aaron Rodgers. So Jeff, Christian Watson in Green Bay. I mean, what are your thoughts as far as maybe how the targets shape up? I mean, what he can do versus Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what are your thoughts?
So we've seen a lot. He's tremendous after the catch. And so he's got the athleticism. And I think a lot of people see that 6'4" package, that 4.3 speed, and just kind of look at him as a guy that's running 9 routes, clearing out like Marquez Valdes-Scantling was. He was used heavily in the return game. He was used a lot in reverses as part of the run game in the North Dakota State offense. And so Green Bay, they run one of the highest concentrations of RPOs in the league. And so what they do, they like to do that RPO action off the quick move to the running back, and then they'll throw it out quick to Devontae Adams, allow him to create after the catch. And I know Alan Lazard seems to be the popular name and potentially being in that role, but I think we all can kind of agree that Christian Watson will probably be able to do a little bit more with the ball in his hands than Alan Lazard will be able to do. And so getting him some of those easy actions off RPO that are essentially extensions of the run game, get him out in space if they're able to do that, assuming he's able to beat press coverage. The other thing too, if he can beat press coverage, if you come up and press Christian Watson and he breaks that and he's gone, I mean, that's 6 points. And I think that we kind of know that. And so I think that there's a lot out there that's kind of really comping him to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And he never really got to where he should have based upon his physical talents. But I think that Christian Watson just has something that nobody else in that room really has with the athleticism and probably the ability to work after the catch.
And if you look at what happened with Watson at North Dakota State, his career stat line there doesn't look that impressive, like 104 passes caught for so and so many yards. But then you look at the amount of passes thrown his way. He was only targeted 120 times. So his completion percentage and his yards after the catch is insane when you put it in that vacuum. And then you pair it with, 2-time MVP Aaron Rodgers throwing it. And I don't care about this narrative that Aaron Rodgers doesn't like rookies. You know what? He's going to have to get over that because that's about all he's got right now. If he wants to win in this division, then he's going to have to get over that. And so I think Christian Watson is going to be the main benefactor of all of these players. Lazard will probably get those red zone looks like he always has. But if you're talking about chunk plays down the field, that's going to be Christian Watson's meat and potatoes.
Kev, I'll let you go next because I actually have first of all, I'll let you go because Christian Watson is your baby. And I'll let you go because I actually have a question for you guys, which involves Christian Watson after this. So Kev, why don't you lay us down why your man's is the man's?
Yeah, so the people want to look at, they want to go box score hunting about Christian Watson and just look at the sheer lack of volume. But you have to take into context the offense at NDSU. They're primarily 12 personnel. They for the better part of a decade, they've run the ball 70% of the time. It also helps to be the most dominant FCS program for the last over 10 years. So, Christian Watson didn't exactly have the most opportunity there. So when you're looking at that, they had to get him involved, through jet sweeps, through, the run game. He took a 65-yard, end around against, I believe, Valparaiso for a touchdown. So that's the kind of upside he has. And, I said this again with Burks, you have to have an offense that wants to use you in that way to be able for his skill set, to be a plus. And Watson does. And I think LaFleur is going to be able to use him. That you don't trade up for a guy unless you use him, unless it's Jordan Love. And I told myself I was going to stop talking about him, and I will now. But yeah, I really like the fit here with Watson. Like I said, I think it's wide open. And when you're looking at like redraft and you look at all these guys and I want to get Aaron Rodgers, top target. You could go with Alan Lazard. That's probably the safe play. You could go with Sammy Watkins, at least for week 1, and know you're getting at least something out of him. But why not go with the athletic, freak of nature that, I will go with the athletic play. I don't know if he's going to be, super high as far as ADP. I haven't even looked at Best Ball Mania ADP yet for Watson, but I'd imagine he's probably a tick over Lazard. But still, even that's probably 11th round, 10th round. I would still take a shot on him there. So yeah, I think the target hierarchy is wide open, completely wide open to Green Bay. Watson's got as good of a shot as any to be the top target. Mike Clay's projections have him as the top target in Green Bay this year.
Boom. So that leads me to where I'm at, and it brings us to another player. So for me, Christian Watson, like you talked about, like this is a guy who has, the floor is that because of his profile, like he could easily be like the next Denzel Mims, right? But his ceiling, it honestly reminds me a lot of Randy Moss. As crazy as that sounds, like he's obviously not going to be Randy Moss, who is, in my opinion, the second or first best wide receiver of all time. It's like Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, T.O. It's those guys are way up there, right? So, but like think about Randy Moss's rookie year. He was doing end arounds. He was running back punts. You know what I mean? And then they were like, okay, let's not risk this guy on punts anymore. But that could be like a Christian Watson trajectory, right? So I look at him and I'm like, okay, here's a crazy low floor. Here's a super high ceiling. And then there's this narrative building within the community, which I'm doing my own dynasty drafts. I'm watching Jeff Bell's timeline where he's asking all the right questions and everyone's fighting in the, like, Jeff, you do ask the right questions and people get to fighting in your,
I got in there the other day.
How many times have you had to mute your own tweets just because people are arguing for days and days? How many times
I mute them usually very quickly. Yeah, that's like all the stuff about engagement, whatever. No, I mute things like immediately almost. It's like one of those where like I see where this is going. I need to get to my day, but no, I mute pretty fast.
I've responded to your tweets and I've seen your tweets and I've typed up a response and I'm just like, Jeff's chumming the waters, man. I'm gonna get caught up. I'm gonna lose followers up in here, like arguing with people. So I stay out of there sometimes. But I've seen the debate is there, and I think that it's really developing this narrative where it's people get through the first few picks of their draft, and it's Christian Watson, the super risky pick, or it's Sky Moore, who everyone comps to Golden Tate. Everyone says super safe floor ceiling, right? So it's like for me, okay, if I'm in this one league that's like a Sirius XM league that's like for 16 teams and there's a million flexes. Like I'm taking Sky Moore because I know I can start him like every single week. But some of my leagues are like 10-team leagues, and if your guys aren't studs, you're not competing. They're not cracking your lineup. So I need the Christian Watson to, like, if Sky Moore is like Golden Tate, the regular Golden Tate isn't cracking my lineup. So for you guys, let's say it's a right down the middle, average, like normal league. I know, Kev, you're taking Christian Watson, but who are you guys taking out of those two guys? Sky Moore or Christian Watson? Where are you guys going?
I'll let our guest go first. So
I've got, in terms of a dynasty league, I've got Sky Moore ranked just above Christian Watson in my rankings, and I think it's that one of the probably just a little bit safer, I guess. Yeah, but I just cannot get out of my mind that, like, what are we doing here? Like, if you were to look a year from now and say, why were we not pushing the 6'4" guy that runs a 4.3 that's playing with Aaron Rodgers to the very top of our dynasty wide receivers in this class, who went 2 picks out of the first round? I mean, it's one of those that I don't know. And I think that a lot of context gets lost because people will just look at a stat line and say, well, they didn't use him. And Kev makes a great point. North Dakota State won the national championship like 3 of the last 4 years, and they didn't need to use them. And I think that one of the things that if people don't follow college football really hardcore, they don't really realize that, if the coach is going to be there for 10 years, he's going to somewhat shape his offense to fit the talents that are in there. But if he's running a scheme that's winning the national championship, he's just going to allow the square peg, the round hole, whatever it might be. Because I go back, and so Michael Thomas with Urban Meyer. Michael Thomas was a very talented. Urban Meyer did not change his offense to use the talents and feature Michael Thomas. He kind of just ran his offense, and he won a national championship doing it at the highest level, not even FCS. And so I think that I have some of those questions when it comes to production, because you look at Christian Watson, and if Christian Watson were playing at Western Kentucky, an offense that throws the ball nonstop, that Jared Stearns had 190 catches last year, do you really think Christian Watson wouldn't have had 2,000 yards, 185 catches? I mean, you can see the things that he can do physically. It's obvious. And so, yeah, I cannot get it out of my mind that are we going to sit here a year from now and say, why are we fading this guy? Is it the type of thing you mentioned, Randy Moss? And that's kind of where my mind has been with him as well. Is, are we going to get him out of the NFL field? And we've kind of saw it a little bit with the Senior Bowl, where he was way above other wide receivers that, like, Velus Jones was there. He got drafted in round 3. He got day 2 capital. And so I think that, yeah, we've seen him in comparable situations playing above that FCS level. And he looked like he was clearly head and shoulders better than anybody else there.
Yeah, and another thing when you're trying to decide between Watson and Sky Moore is that Sky Moore has a bunch of actually established NFL talent that Kansas City brought in. Green Bay has very little of that surrounding him. So I think if you look at just pure opportunity, that kind of leans in his favor as well. And they're talking about Sky Moore being in that Tyreek Hill role and but I don't know if anybody can directly slot into that. I'm more worried about Patrick Mahomes distributing the ball a ton and not completely focusing on one singular person with that amount of target share. Rather, there's 12% here, 15% here, I think Watson has the better pathway towards a bigger target share, and that's why I'm going with him over Sky Moore. I'm taking the risk, man. Risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah, I mean, it's Watson for me. I do like Sky Moore. I like the landing spot for him. I think that him being there helps another Chiefs wide receiver a lot more than Sky Moore. I wrote about this. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a dark horse wide receiver 1 this year in fantasy. Just think, if the Chiefs had drafted like Jalen Tolbert, or like at least a more athletic, prototypical sized wide receiver, Juju would be, shoehorned as that slot guy again, low ADOT, probably high volume, but not much else as far as, upside, touchdowns, yards. But I think this represents the best chance for a guy like Smith-Schuster to stay in the outside role where he just absolutely feasted. He's still got Travis Kelce in the offense too. So, he's not going to be able to see, the full defensive attention. It's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I like Sky Moore as much as the next person. Don't get me wrong. And I'll be probably targeting him right after Christian Watson, but I just don't think Sky Moore in year 1, really has any kind of that upside that Watson does.
It's a ceiling versus floor debate for me. Like I said, different formats. I'll draft different guys, but I don't know. I just love the idea of Watson blowing up and being this crazy guy. I mean, just to throw it out there, like, we look at like the day 3 guys and who actually does anything. Most of them, like, I wrote an article about it. Like, Tyreek Hill kicked out of school. Antonio Brown was kicked out of school after he went to some fake school. Just to even get in. he literally
South Harmon Institute of Technology.
Dude, he went to this school, North whatever, where it was like something tech, where like they didn't even have real classes. And just to boost your grades, he got into Florida International and got kicked out before they even started games. Like, ridiculousness, right? Stephon Diggs got suspended. Julian Edelman didn't even play wide receiver in college. Those are like the top 5 guys. The other guys are guys like Pierre Garçon and even like Cecil Shorts. Cecil Shorts is like a top 15 day 3 guy. Like, that's over the last like 15 years. These guys went to D3 schools. So I look at D2 And for me, the fact that he goes that early still, even as a D2 guy, but that just raises the ceiling for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm looking for reasons to like these guys that go in the later rounds. I'm like, please, tell me that he like got like a DUI. Like, you know what I mean? Like, tell me this guy can't read or something. Because I would love for a reason that he slid that far, besides the fact that he's not good at football. You know, so for day two, like Division II guys that teams are trading up for, sign me up.
Oh boy, I can't get South Harmon Institute of Technology out of my head now. Thinking about it. So let's lump the remaining wide receivers, at least the ones with day one capital here: Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, and Jameson Williams. I would maybe throw Williams out, but I'll include him just for the sake of this. When I ask this question, I'll go to Jeff first. I would say maybe iffy landing spots with Olave and the Saints as far as fantasy production. Wilson with the Jets. We obviously have questions about Zach Wilson. Jameson Williams with the Lions. He might miss the first month of the season. But what do you think is the best, at least redraft landing spot for these guys to be able to, and who's going to finish higher, do you think, as far as fantasy and redraft?
So only because, all right. So I would think potentially if we see the Jameis Winston that we saw a couple of years ago, that I think Chris Olave has a a fantastic landing spot, because I think that Michael Thomas is going to mentor him. They have a relationship going back. They've known each other for a long time. They were both from California, high school star wide receivers in California. They both went to Ohio State. They already have a pre-existing relationship. And I think that could be one of those things that, like for the Falcons, remember when they had Roddy White and then they brought in Julio Jones and he kind of taught Julio Jones what to do, and then Julio Jones kind of taught Calvin Ridley what to do. I think the Saints could be in that situation. Ultimately, I land on Garrett Wilson as the pick because while we saw production last year from Elijah Moore, and so we saw that for a month he was like wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. And so I think that Zach Wilson, for all the questions that we have on Zach Wilson, I think he's going to lock on and target a guy repeatedly. The Jets throw the ball a lot more than people realize. They were in the top half in attempts last year. Yeah, they brought in Breece Hall, and that offensive line should be a little bit more solidified. But I think that there's a situation where that Zach Wilson is just peppering Garrett Wilson with targets over and over again. And that's really what you want to see, especially for all the additions that they made on their defense. That defense is still probably not going to be great. Whereas the Saints, I think the Saints are probably going to be in a little bit more of a ball control game script, just from what we've seen, how they've used Jameis Winston. The questions about, are they going to have Kamara or not? But we know their defense should be much better than the Jets. And then Jameson Williams is just tough to include because the injury. But I did see right before I hopped on, there was a tweet where his doctor said that they're shooting to have him ready for preseason week 1. So who knows if they're able to make a miracle happen there. But that's probably where I would order him right now: Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, and then Jameson Williams.
So let me throw a little wrench in the Garrett Wilson redraft situation. And here's my situation, right? And this is the team that does this is the Ravens, right? Where they have, in your mind, it's like, oh, they have 3 wide receivers and then they have a tight end and they have running back, and that's how football works. But the Ravens, they use Patrick Ricard 50% of the snaps, legitimately 50%. And they use Nick Boyle, and Nick Boyle didn't even play last year, and they still just, they muddled things up. So the Jets go out and, in our minds, it's like, oh, Corey Davis is the split end, and Garrett Wilson is the flanker, and Elijah Moore is the slot guy. Well, they went out and they got 2 tight ends, CJ Uzoma and Tyler Conklin. And they already have Trevin Wesco at fullback, and then they signed Nick Bawden, which suggests they're going to use a fullback, which, Robert Saleh comes from the 49ers, where they love use check, dude. Everyone there screaming juice, like they love using their tight end. So that's right, their fullback. So if every time you bring in a second tight end, which Conklin and Uzoma are probably going to be on the field at the same time at some point, right? Like someone comes out. So who comes out? Corey Davis comes out? I don't think so. They paid him a lot of money. He's the split end. Or maybe he does come out and they use Elijah Moore. But if you're in the red zone, do you take Corey Davis out? He's a monster. So, and then if you're in the red zone and you bring in the fullback, which wide receiver is the one wide receiver that stays out there? Because Marquise Brown was the only wide receiver on the Ravens that played more than 50% of the snaps. So, I mean, in you guys' opinion, does this sort of like the use of second tight ends and the fullbacks, who gets hurt? We our fantasy wanting says it should be Corey Davis, but it could be Elijah Moore. It could be the rookie.
Well, I almost wonder, with them having so many ties to the San Francisco 49ers, seeing, I don't know, I'm not going to say the Debo role, but some creative usage to get the ball in the hands of your best athlete. And I think Garrett Wilson is the best athlete between him and Elijah Moore, and especially with Corey Davis. And so I wonder if there's going to be a little bit more creativity that's going to be involved there. And I mean, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm just being an Ohio State Buckeye, but the reality is we're talking about 3 Ohio State Buckeyes here to split them all out. But I just look at the Jets. I think that for as good as Elijah Moore was last year, I just think Garrett Wilson has a much higher ceiling. And I think when you use the 10th overall pick in the draft, you kind of want to see what that ceiling might be. And again, it's just one of those open question on, I hear exactly what you're saying. And they used a 3rd round pick on Jeremy Ruckert too, to even add another tight end to that. And I could see where they want to go heavy packages, rely on Breece Hall there with Zach Wilson to allow him to develop, control game scripts, hold the ball, allow the defense to stay off the field, and it's not going so wild as it did last year. And that's certainly well within play. But then the question would, the Saints kind of want to do the same thing. And the Lions, we don't know what we're going to get out of Jameson Williams. And if we know that Jameson Williams is healthy, I might place the chip on him, because I think that he's going to be like kind of that Jalen Waddle role for Miami, where they're going to use him in intermediate areas. They're going to get the ball in his hands because he's just a better athlete than the other options in that receiver room.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said from a redraft standpoint, because I love Garrett Wilson for long term.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing not to like. There's nothing not to, I saw that dude jump over another dude to catch a pass, and it was insane. So there's not really much I could say. You know, I'm not even a big film guy, but when dudes are jumping over other dudes, I'm like, all right.
Coops highlight reel.
That was great.
I watch football for fun. I do my fantasy. I do my real work, you know, and then I go back and confirm it. Like, I went back to watch Amon-Ra St. Brown catch a bunch of underneath passes against zone, and I was not impressed. But that's what the numbers showed. So that's why I'm like big on Jameson Williams. But I will go back to confirm things, but I don't really sit and watch the film and I'm like, oh my God, did you see his release? Because I can't, like, the Steelers wide receiver scout might be like, oh, his release needs work. Let's draft him. You know, so it's like, how am I going to be like, this guy sucks, his release sucks? Because when they're like, oh yeah, everything's good about this guy except for his release, we'll fix that. But enough. I've talked too much. Kev, get us back on track. Get us back on the ghost ship, buddy.
All I'm going to say here, and I just you really want to put your chips in on this guy, and I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let me find it. Come on, look how happy he looks.
Dude, yeah, it's a killer.
He's so happy to be on the Lions. He doesn't have room for anything else.
That's a killer, man. He's got an ice cold heart.
That's right.
He's ready for Detroit.
Yeah, he's ready. All right. Like that bottom quarter, like that last one in the quarter. But yeah,
I was gonna see the ball with that hair. That's what I'm worried about.
It looks like a chandelier or something.
Well,
yeah, I'd probably go. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, you thinking like who you're gonna get in redraft? I mean, if I'm getting a discount on Jameson Williams compared to the other two, then I think maybe Jameson Williams is your answer for redraft. If you're gonna have, especially a several round injury discount.
I mean, I'm making the playoffs no matter what because I'm awesome at this. So I'm drafting guys that are going to be playing. You know what I mean? I'll draft Chris Godwin. I'll draft, you know, whoever. Like, as long as I'm confident that they're going to play. So, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, if we're going to talk about, I mean, I would probably take whoever's cheaper, really. But, I mean, if I have the choice of the three, I'd probably go Olave just because I do think that, you know, it's really Zach Wilson that needs to rally everybody else around because, you know, if he's not doing anything and it's week 6, Jets fans.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
New York media.
Yeah. That media is brutal, but let's stick in New York. Let's talk about Breece Hall. Jeff, is Michael Carter dead?
Yeah, I think he's dead. I did a video this week where I said he's dead. I just think he's become a handcuff. You know, he is a, you know, maybe top end. He's Darrell Henderson or Tony Pollard, but it's one of those that Hey, if you are holding Michael Carter, look on Twitter and find the person that's arguing that Michael Carter's not dead in your league and get Michael Carter off your roster, because I think that they're just going to go with Breece Hall. He saw heavy usage in the passing game, and so that was one of those that I just don't understand, because Iowa State was comfortable using him, and he caught more passes in college than Michael Carter did. And if blitz pickup's the concern, well, Michael Carter's not getting points on a blitz pickup play. And I mean, it's just one of those that I think I just land on Breece, just taking the job and running with it.
Yeah. So my answer is quick on this, and I'm actually going to quote Jacob Sanderson from Player Profiler. Me and him argue all the time. I love the guy. He's super sharp. And before the draft, he said, "You don't draft Breece Hall to not use him every down." You know what I mean? And I completely agree with that. And here's the thing. Even if they do use Breece Hall on just the passing downs, Alvin Kamara has never had 1,000-yard rushing. Austin Eckler's never had 1,000-yard rushing. I don't play standard, and you should stop playing standard. All we care about is fantasy points, and that's how you get them. So Breece Hall to the moon. I was telling people to grab Michael Carter for cheap before the draft, just in case. Well, just in case, didn't happen. So just move him if you can, stash him if you can't.
Well, and there's been a little bit of concern about the health of the Jets offensive line. Even those little pieces, the younger pieces on that O-line can't really stay healthy. But if you look at what Breece Hall did in college, he put all those numbers up behind kind of a subpar line as well. So I think he has the better chance of actually doing something behind that line than Carter does. And, perhaps Carter was just that guy in college that worked in a split share and then went to an NFL system that didn't work for him. And, it is what it is. You're a backup from that point on. So yeah, I have to agree. I think he's dead.
Welcome to the zero RB tier, Michael Carter.
You're in. I mean, Philip Lindsay had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he went right to the pine. So it's not like it's unprecedented.
He went like he's in the coffin. He ain't in the pine. I mean, the coffin might be made out of pine, but he is.
So Austin Eckler plus Alvin Kamara plus Christian McCaffrey is 2,000-yard rushing seasons. Philip Lindsay also has 2,000-yard rushing seasons. I don't care about carries. I care about receptions. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah, let's go with the other, let's go with Kenneth Walker, who, you'd say Walker, Spiller, if you had a third, maybe a Rashad White, probably this 2, 3, and 4 of this class. But Jeff, Kenneth Walker, I mean, I'm not going to ask you if Rashad Penny is dead. We already know Chris Carson is, neck injury. I'd say he's close to dead, but I don't know if this is as clear cut as we want, Breece Hall, Michael Carter to be, and probably is. But Kenneth Walker, I mean, can you see him at least taking the job? You see Penny finding a path to 150 carries and kind of maybe sapping both guys?
I'm curious if Penny is even on the roster when the season starts, to be honest with you, because I think, especially if Chris Carson makes a miracle comeback, that's going to hold a special place in Pete Carroll's heart. And I think that Pete Carroll is going to try to get him on the field if he's able to do that. I wonder, with being on a 1-year contract, I really question what's going to happen with the quarterback situation, because if they were to bring in Baker Mayfield, I think that maybe kind of signals like, okay, we're going to give this a real run. If they don't touch Baker Mayfield and they're just going out there with Drew Lock or Geno Smith, it really seems to me that they might just be saying, we're tossing this year and we are fine with whatever's going to happen. We know what division we're in football. The NFC West is one of the most difficult divisions in football, and they might just be looking at Bryce Young coming next year or CJ Stroud coming next year and saying, we need to get one of these guys, and we'll flip Rashad Penny while he's actually healthy for the first time in his career. We'll use that expiring contract. We'll get a 4th, 5th, whatever it might be, pick back for him for whatever starter goes down for another team in August. We'll ride Kenneth Walker, and maybe we'll have the feel-good story of Chris Carson too.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, in the very beginning, you said it, the most important part, which is that, like, Chris Carson is Pete Carroll is such a player coach, like my guy's coach. He's such a gum chewing, like butt slapping dude that, like, if Kenneth Walker becomes his best friend, what was that story about him and DK Metcalf both taking their shirts off or something, and then he drafted him. It's like that's what I'm talking about.
There's
though.
a video of it.
Right. It's like Pete Carroll probably took his shirt off, and Rashad Penny's like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, you're dead to me. You know, like, so I'm right there with you. Like, if Chris Carson, obviously his buddy, as an undrafted guy who has a serious neck injury, and Pete Carroll's like, come on, buddy, let's do it again. Let's play some more, you know? But like if Kenneth Walker becomes his friend and becomes the guy, then he will be the guy. I mean, how many times did Chris Carson fumble? Like he fumbled like 5 times in a 3-game span. And Pete's like, you got this, bud. Like, we're not putting Rashad in. We're not putting Penny in there. He doesn't respond to any of my texts, you know? So I'm so with you on the Kenneth Walker. Like, if he gets it, he's going to get the full role, and he's going to have to learn to catch passes because it's Pete's friends circle.
Yeah,
Well, and another thing too, like, sorry, you go ahead, Kevin.
No, go ahead. Go.
Well, just the fact that the Seahawks didn't pick up Penny's 5th-year option, and then they kind of got left with nobody else. And then they're like, oh, come back here. Like, now we got you. It's fine. Like, that situation really makes me wary about how much they value him. Because if you're not going to pick up a guy's 5-year option, but yet he was the guy, and then you're just kind of like, oh, come back as like some lip service kind of like desperation situation, it really makes me concerned about how long-term they view you. And especially if you draft a running back in the 2nd round, like, you're toast.
Imagine a world where Pete Carroll lets Drew Lock throw the ball 500 times. Like, just literally imagine.
Is this hell?
If Russell Wilson only throws the ball like 4,
I really do. Like, I'm convinced it's going to be Geno Smith. I
Geno
really
look
do.
good. Hey, that's not a crazy take at all, Jeff.
No, that's Thursday night game against the Rams.
I love that.
Yeah.
Take.
You know, and he's got some chemistry there already. I think Pete Carroll would love the story of the, you know, rehab Geno, and we had a great season out of him, but I'm not writing it off.
Was Geno there in New York did he overlap with Gase? Because can we add him to the narrative now?
I'll allow it, even though I don't think he did. But I think
he was like a year off. Might have been a year or 2 off, but yeah, we'll allow it still. So let's go to James Cook in Buffalo. And I mean, we know running backs in Buffalo, it's Singletary, the ghost of, you know, the corpse of Zach Moss. Apparently you have a very morbid, you know, prospect talk, you know, this evening. We're talking about death and ghost ships and all this stuff. But yeah, James Cook, you know, I don't know if you guys heard, he is Dalvin Cook's brother. I just want to put that out there so everybody knows. Just completely squash that whole narrative. Jimmy Graham also played college basketball too. So might as well hit that one too. Yeah, James Cook. I'm excited for him in Buffalo. You know, but Devin Singletary is really just a guy. Don't know if Duke Johnson and Devin Singletary are really going to be vying for a ton of real estate in that offense. So James Cook has a real shot. What do you think, Jeff?
I think he absolutely has a real shot. He's a 2nd-round pick, and I know that he's on the small side, but it's one of those that, you know, if he were to catch 6 passes out of the backfield and he gets like 3 or 4 carries, well, we know you can watch a Bills game, and there are holes that you can drive a semi-truck through that between Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, they get tackled 6 yards down the field because they just don't have the top gear at all. And then you flip on the tape, watch James Cook in the national championship game against Alabama's defense, and he breaks off a 70-yard run that really flipped the momentum in that game. He is a next level athlete compared to the other guys that are there. And despite his small size or, you know, low BMI, whatever it might be, he's just a natural catcher of the ball. We know this offense wants to throw the ball. I think that there is going to be a lot there for him. And I don't know that he's never really going to take over being the primary back, but this offense doesn't really feature a primary back. And there's enough big play potential. There's enough receiving potential that this is a guy you should be in on.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think that, you know, everybody expected, you know, Isaiah Spiller to be the consensus running back 3. And then everybody goes, whoa, when Cook came off the board. The Bills are not dumb. They are great with their scouting process. They know what they want in an athlete. They've kind of seen it, you know, with Spiller and with Moss not working out. I think the way that Cook was used in that Georgia offense, sure, he didn't get a lot of rushing carries, but when he did, he was efficient. He had over 5 yards per carry. And then on all of his receptions, he had 27 receptions for 274 yards. So he averaged over 10 yards per reception. He's that chunk play kind of guy that you want on this offense to go in there and make plays, especially when you have that option of, Josh Allen. Is he going to hand off the ball, or is Josh Allen just going to run it? You know that they have to respect that run with both of those guys in the backfield. And he is a little bit bigger than Singletary. Maybe he needs to eat a cheeseburger and gain a pound and get over that 200-pound threshold for the NFL that everybody seems to think is the threshold for NFL running backs. But I think that he can do it. So let's just hush with that narrative that he's too small. He's young. He's going to do it. He's in a good offense. He's behind a good line. James Cook is going to be the guy.
Yes, dude. That's what I'm talking about, man. I mean, like, look at Austin Eckler. Like, he weighed in like 194. You look at pictures of him and now he looks like a friggin' Ninja Turtle. Like, this guy.
He really does.
Like, he actually does.
Looks like Doug Martin.
Right. Like, you can get big, man. Like, Christian McCaffrey was like 202. And I mean, like, the guy is big. So if he's committed.
Aaron Jones.
Right. And the thing is, he's got a brother in the league that, can guide him through the situation. Not to mention, this is a stat that blows people's minds. I mean, I'll say it right now because you guys will know the answer. But who do you think has more PPR points? So Joe Mixon's been in the league for 5 years. Who do you think has more full PPR points over the last 5 years? Joe Mixon or James White?
Well, you prefaced it. I would think Joe Mixon, but you prefaced it that way. I feel like it's
the way you
James White has more
that PPR.
Has more PPR. I know that Mixon's got hurt a couple times, but I mean, James White's been the number 7 overall running back in PPR. He was the number 18 overall running back. He was the number 26 overall running back. Like, these guys in your people like love to hate on guys. Like, when you're picking where James Cook goes, you're just looking for anyone that is going to do anything, because at best, these guys a lot of times have a 50% chance. Like, if I could go back and pick James White over certain guys, I would absolutely do it. And I'm looking at people right now, and the best comparison I see is, like, think about like Alvin Kamara was win the 3rd round, like pick 114. I tweeted the other day, so hopefully I remember the numbers. 114, and Samaje Perine, he went pick 90. Sorry, he went pick 67. Samaje Perine went pick 114. So almost double the distance. We're talking about 60 picks. This year, James Cook went pick, what was Jeff, 67 to you guys?
I believe.
And
it was right at the end of the 2nd round. We traded back twice.
Damian Pierce went pick 107 in the 4th round. And I'm seeing Pierce go ahead because people are super excited about landing on the Texans, the team that has literally the worst odds of winning the Super Bowl of any team in the entire league. Like, got me a break, man. We're doing the same thing again. Damian Pierce, Samaje Pierce. Like, just take the guy that catches passes, because you play in PPR unless you're weird.
Yeah, I will. All right. So we'll move this along a little bit. I just want to ask you guys a quick hitter here. I'll start with Jeff. Who are you drafting in redraft? Damian Pierce or Tyler Algier?
Damian Pierce.
Who?
Agreed.
Okay. I'm going Algier.
Oh,
Damian Pierce is a good pass catcher. And we saw the Texans. I mean, their offense is probably going to be a little bit different with Pep Hamilton now in there. But we saw the Rex Burkhead be the feature back role last year. And I think Pierce can catch out of the backfield. I think Algier, I feel pretty comfortable what his role is going to be. He's going to be a hammer, and he's going to, they're kind of going to be able to get back to using Cordero Patterson in a creative manner like they used early last year.
Yeah, I just think that with Patterson being 31 and then Damian Williams being 30, and those being the only running backs on that roster, that the potential for injury and the potential for Algier to move up into a feature role is going to happen sooner rather than later. And I don't like to bake on injuries, but I'm just looking at depth. Like the Texans got Marlon Mack. Of course, he's coming back from that Achilles, but I still think, he's an established running back in the league. I think that Algier has the clearer path to a starting role. So,
yeah, of course, in redraft, you got to chase, touches and whatever's going to happen just this year on these, again, the ghost ship teams, both these teams. But
we're not talking redraft. Sorry, I'm in redraft mode.
No, that was redraft. That was redraft. That was redraft. And in redraft, I like Damian Pierce, because I still like Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary gets a bad rap. You know what I mean? Like, yards per carry has been very good. Jeff, I see all the Bills stuff behind you. We're talking like 4.7 yards per carry somewhere in there.
Well, that's one of those where, yeah, it's wide open. And so he gets the 7 yards every single time. It's just that he doesn't get the 45 yards.
Right. Yeah. And that's what you're missing with the explosiveness.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's go over to the tight ends real quick, and then we'll hit quarterbacks, and then we'll be all set here. So, tight ends, especially for redraft, I think it's kind of a mixed bag, but I mean, Trey McBride landing in Arizona, I think is, probably better long-term. But grown-ass man Jelani Woods, for Indianapolis, I rather like that spot him because he's got, Mo Alley-Cox there, Jack Doyle retired. Indianapolis still pretty much has a wide open target tree as well. They did add Alec Pierce as well, but I mean, it's Pittman and then pretty much throw your hands up at the Ashton Doolins of the world and the Mike Strackens and whoever. But what do you think about McBride and Woods as far as, I'm not sure about redraft value this year, although I think Woods probably has the edge over McBride. What do you think, Jeff?
I think redraft, I would still put McBride at the very end of my bench because he's one injury away from having a huge role in, we know, a very pass-friendly offense. I really like Jelani Woods. He's been my tight end 2 ever since the combine. Once we saw that relative athletic score come out, I'm not entirely convinced he knows how to play football. I think is part of my concern there because I don't know. They're few and far between the plays that actually did flash on film where he showed that he knew what he was doing. He reminds me a lot of Mo Alley-Cox, so that's a good thing. And Mo Alley-Cox has that red zone role. I think both of these guys obviously need an injury.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not drafting any of these guys in redraft. None of them. None.
Yeah,
not Jelani Woods. I think that they split things up too much among the tight ends over with the Colts. They had too much rotating. I don't like it. I want one guy to just play the pass downs, if anything, like Mark Andrews or Mike Gesicki. Like, I don't care if he plays all the downs as long as it plays just the pass downs. If I'm drafting any rookie tight end, it's gonna be Cole Turner from Washington. Super late, crazy late, like super deep, best balls. Just wondering if Logan Thomas is gonna be okay or whatever. But I mean, like, nobody else really has a shot to be a top 2 target on our team. Kev, I get what you're saying. Jelani Woods, if he comes out and he's a megastar and they just kind of put Mo Alley-Cox in the Jack Doyle role and Kylan Granson goes on the back burner. My boy Eli Wolf. Probably dust. Yeah. Eli Wolf needs a trade now.
We got it. We need a new mascot. That's going to be our goal from now until the season.
Well, Eli Wolf, he's still floating around. I'll find this new.
He's there. He's got the baton, but he's got to have someone to hand it to.
We got to hand Eli Wolf is the baton that he needs to be handed to a new team. That's what we got to do here. But anyway, like I'll look at it, but I don't know, man. I'm a tight end guy. I love the idea of rookie tight ends breaking out. If there was one that I really loved, I would obviously be screaming it into the ethos, but I don't really love him. I don't know, Britt, what do you think?
I'm still on this Jelani Woods train. I think that he's the comp to Matt Ryan's Kyle Pitts in this new Indianapolis offense. Who knows if Alec Pierce is actually going to break out. He does have Michael Pittman, but we saw that Jelani Woods isn't efficient when he's used as a blocker. That's why he transferred from Oklahoma State, because he wasn't being utilized as a blocker. And when he was utilized as a pass catcher at Virginia, he was crazy efficient. Like 8 touchdowns in 10 games, a 67% completion percentage or completion rate. I really, really like this guy. And he was kind of hovering down towards the 5th to 7th in a lot of even these industry professionals, like NFL Network tiers of tight ends. And then Indianapolis took him as the 2nd tight end off the board. So I don't think that they're going to put him in that blocking role. I do think that they're going to utilize him. And I hope that I'm right, because I have a ton of him.
That's why I love stats, because you can be like, Jelani Woods scored 8 times as many touchdowns as Trey McBride last year. Take the number of touchdowns Trey McBride scored. Jelani Woods scored 8 million times as many. Like, it's great. But I don't know. I mean, Linda is the one that put me onto the narrative of Oklahoma State, not a good spot. Mike Gundy, kind of a wet blanket when it comes to tight ends, which I don't like.
Well, so I did the ACC projections for Fantasy Alarm last season. And in the first couple of weeks, I'm like, damn, this guy's getting a lot of targets. And so I kind of zeroed in on him because it was his first season at Virginia. And then I was like, okay, damn, this guy's getting a lot of targets because he's good. And so I've been a stan ever since. Just having Linda have my back is just extra butter on the biscuit.
Linda's got everybody's back.
Yeah, she does.
Butter on the biscuit. I like it. Let's round out here with the quarterback. So I'll actually go to you, Coop, first. I know you actually just wrote about this quarterback, Desmond Ritter, as far as best ball targets, late round guys. Or I'm sorry, Britt did. I'm sorry.
I wrote about
Britt
Kenny
did.
Pickett.
You wrote about Pickett. That's right. Okay, it was Britt that wrote about Ritter. I'm sorry. Put me away.
You're dead. You're Michael. You're in the Michael Carter dust jail.
That's the AJ Green dust jail. Well, maybe not so much anymore.
He's back, baby.
Yeah, I did write an article about that the other day too, about how AJ Green might have a little ninth live left. But
all right.
Yeah.
So I'll just say real quick with Kenny Pickett that, like, I think of these guys, he's got the best chance to start right away. They even said you get a chance to start right away. And Mr. Trubisky wasn't with the team last year. I don't think he's particularly good, but we'll see. And if he does get to start, talk about Weapon City. I mean, they improved the line, which was pretty bad. I mean, they didn't improve it that much, but he's got Najee Harris. He's got Pat Fryertruck. He's got Chase Claypool. He's got Deontay Johnson. He's got George Pickens. He's got Calvin Austin, everyone's favorite 5th round replacement for Ray McLeod. Like, they have all types of, flamethrowers, and Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. I don't think he wants to start now. This is the guy who, in a game that was already over, threw a pass to Antonio Brown when they should have taken a knee just to keep Antonio Brown's record going of receptions against the Jaguars. So he's all for records. I bet he's definitely not trying to have any losing seasons. So whoever the best quarterback is going to get that job, and it becomes very interesting in best ball. Trubisky just wait till the very end of your draft, and with your very last 2 picks, take Trubisky and Pickett if you can. Well,
and Pickett's already so familiar with that field. Like, that was literally Pitt's practice field in their practice facility. So he not just stayed home in the sense that he's in the same city. No, he stayed home in that same facility that he's been using for 5 years. So talk about being comfortable, talk about knowing the area, knowing the people there, having a coach who has your back. Like, he's not going to have all those mental blocks that several other quarterbacks have going to a new city, learning a new situation. Like, he's set. So I love Pickett.
There's just my concern. There's no rushing floor on Pickett. Like, he's not going to run the ball. And that's kind of where, like, I would go the other guys over him, but opportunity, you can't ignore the opportunity. And I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be able to run the football. They haven't addressed that offensive line really at all. James Daniels was like all they did to address that offensive line. And so they're going to have to throw it, and they've got those weapons there. And so that, pass yardage might get there, and he might have some spike weeks for you in best ball. It's going to be one of those that I don't know that I'm ever going to feel comfortable starting him in the lineup, especially this year. But that's kind of where, and if I were looking at even redraft, I would rather probably have at the end of my bench, like Ritter. Maybe it would have to be a big league to have like one of these guys even rostered. And I'm not entirely sure that we are not going to see Malik Willis at the end of this year. I'm just going to say that too.
Interesting. So I know we haven't talked about Matt Corral either, Jeff. Can Matt Corral be the answer for getting DJ Moore up to the stratosphere of fantasy wide receivers? I just want your answer to be yes, and then we'll move on.
Sure.
Look at that. That's how.
That's a team player right there. That's right. A team player.
Can't be worse.
Let me just correct you real quick, Jeff. They also added Cole Mason, who, according to Pro Football Focus, was the 56th ranked center last year. So
how many centers how many teams are in the league?
Not sure if you're keeping track at home. There's 30.
Does that include USFL centers?
Yeah, no, there's a few ranked ahead. The
Steelers are actually my team for football guys. I do write-ups for the Steelers and for the Bengals. And so, yes, they added I always, that's one of those where two last names, two first names. I don't remember if it's Cole Mason or Mason Cole, but yeah, he was definitely outside of the top 32 centers on PFF.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. We got another Jordan Cameron situation on our hands.
Well,
Jordan-
guys, let's be positive. There's always room for improvement, right?
Yeah, it looks like Nick Gates brought water out to the starting center and it earned a higher grade than Mason Cole.
Cool.
I think I can put a bow on this Pam dilemma. Yeah. So, I mean, these rookies certainly have some opportunity here. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on. Pump yourself up. Tell us where we can find all your stuff, where we can find you on the old Twitter machine.
Yeah, you can find me at Twitter, for whom J Bell tolls, the number 4. You can find me with Football Guys. I've got written content. I've got video content coming out with Football Guys. And you can find me at Tuesday nights at 9:30 with the Debbie Royale, or on our Patreon too. We're dropping guides. We just did this week. We dropped a rookie fit guide, essentially, where we looked at scheme for the top 60 rookies that you're going to have in your fantasy draft. We look at depth chart, scheme, how rookies would fit within teams, and kind of where the ball usually goes with the teams.
Awesome, man. I like the Debbie Royal guys a lot, dude. You guys are
Thank you
are
very
great.
much.
And
Yeah.
I just said the other day that I was muting the word mock 2023, and they already convinced me to hear some names already. So you guys are very convincing, and I appreciate you, Jeff, especially for being the head referee for fighting Twitter, because, man, like, the thing is, like, people come at you with your, when you put stuff out there and stuff, man, but you always have a good attitude, man. You always are such a easy guy to talk to, and you bring the knowledge, man. So there's nothing to dislike. Anybody out there that's like, oh, I don't like the fights on Twitter. Yeah, you do, dude. You wouldn't be on Twitter if you didn't like to argue. Like, that's why we're all on Twitter,
Yeah.
And
if
like,
it was
I
the
don't really
Mutual
even
Admiration
argue.
Society,
I don't
we
know.
wouldn't be here.
Yeah. I don't
What
know.
you say, Jeff?
I just throw it out there. I just said I don't even really argue on it. I just
I
throw
know
the
you-
questions out there, and then people just go off.
That's what I mean, man. It's like you ask the questions that get the conversation. We're waiting. We want to talk about these things. You know what I mean? Like, somebody has to start the conversation.
Thank you very
Good
much.
job.
I really appreciate all three of you guys, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I said in the
100%.
beginning that I hope that I wasn't in the same division at FSB this year, but I kind of do, because it's so enjoyable playing against you and talking football with you. So
I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun last year.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully, this year, too. Going to be at the Expo, Jeff?
Absolutely. I'll be there.
All right. We gotta get a picture. We'll all be there. The Lightning House.
it is
me,
the
Britt,
Lightning
and Coop.
House.
It really is the Lightning House. We got an Airbnb, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, boy.
Yep. So, all right. We, again, thank you so much for joining us here. You can find all of our content, myself, Britt, and Andrew Cooper's, all at fantasyalarm.com. Lightning Round was powered by Fantasy Alarm, will continue to be for the foreseeable future. So next week we will be doing our first as a group, Best Ball Mania draft on Underdog. So hope you guys join us for that, where we will be sniping each other, and that'll be a lot of fun. Coop, do you have something else?
Just want to say, if you're not signed up for Underdog yet, then you're a fool. But you can stop being a fool, get signed up, stop joining dynasty leagues and doing startups that you're not going to pay attention to. That's a waste of your time. Instead, scratch that itch by signing up for Underdog, doing best ball drafts. Use promo code ALARM. They'll match up to $100, dude. You drop $100, they'll match up to 100. You're so smart because you're listening to this podcast. You're a Fantasy Alarm member. You're gonna make that money times a zillion, at least a zillion. So sign up, promo code ALARM. It's already available right now. Best Ball Mania, and we're doing a draft next Wednesday. You could probably draft against us if are we reaching out to people, Kev? Are we getting people in here?
All I got to do is we can't start our own draft, but you just get in. I mean, they're filling up anyway, so
Yeah.
No
Okay.
problem. So
All right, well, we'll do
And
it.
All
it's
right.
It's $1 million also to the highest round one winner, in addition to the 2 million first place and 1 million second place. So this is the biggest tournament that Underdog has ever put on. So, like, what do you have to lose?
Like I said, 1 million plus 2 million is roughly a gazillion.
Yeah.
And then the tax man comes. All right. We will see you guys next week here. Like I said, Wednesday, we'll be doing Best Ball Mania on Underdog. Again, use code ALARM. You get up to $100 on your deposit matched, on your first deposit, I should say. So we will see you next week. For Jeff, for Britt, for Cooper, Andrew Cooper, for Cooper. Hang on, Mr. Cooper. I'm going to shut up now. Toodles.